Captain Susan Miller walked slowly around the bridge of the Earth vessel Blue Horizon. The ship looked ugly from the outside. Its hull was a patchwork of different metal plates. Pipes and tubes stuck out at odd angles. Cargo containers were attached to the sides without any sense of style. To any alien eye, the Blue Horizon was just another human freighter. Clunky, inefficient, and not worth a second glance. And that was exactly how Susan wanted it. She stopped at the main viewport and looked out at Centauri Prime Station. The massive space station glittered like a jewel. Its graceful spires and smooth curves showed the advanced engineering of the Galactic Alliance. Dozens of alien ships docked at the station. The Aloxian vessels looked like works of art with their crystal hulls that caught and reflected starlight. The Tauri ships were covered in obvious weapon mounts, proudly displaying their military might. Then there were the human ships. Bulky. Plain. Practical. Boring. Status report, Susan said. First Officer Greg Nelson looked up from his console. Docking complete, Captain. Station authorities have cleared us for a 3-day stay. They've assigned us to the commercial sector as usual. Susan nodded. Of course they had. No one would put an ugly human freighter near the diplomatic vessels or luxury liners. The Alliance species had accepted humans into their community 5 years ago, but they still saw Earth as the backward newcomer. Humans were the primitive species who had barely figured out faster-than-light travel. Their ships were proof of that, or so the aliens thought. Start the unloading process, Susan ordered, and make sure our special cargo remains sealed and logged as farming equipment. Greg smiled. Yes, Captain. The crew knows the drill. Susan checked the time. I'll be meeting with Officer Davis in 1 hour. Keep everything running smoothly, and remember, we're just simple merchants selling Earth goods. Of course, Captain. Just simple merchants with enough firepower to level a small moon. Susan shot him a warning look, but her eyes showed amusement. That's the kind of talk that stays on this bridge, Officer Nelson. She left the bridge and went to her quarters to change. She replaced her captain's uniform with simple civilian clothes, the kind a merchant captain might wear when visiting. A station. Nothing flashy, nothing that would draw attention. As she dressed, Susan looked at the hidden panel in her wall. Behind it was a weapons locker with technology the Alliance species would be shocked to see in human hands. The truth was, humans weren't nearly as primitive as the galaxy believed. Earth had spent centuries fighting among themselves before reaching the stars. They had become very, very good at war, and very good at hiding it. An hour later, Susan sat at a small table in a quiet corner of the station's food court. The place served food from a dozen worlds, but few aliens paid attention to the human section. Susan sipped a cup of coffee and waited. Jack Davis arrived right on time. He was dressed like a businessman, but his alert eyes and careful movements revealed his true profession to anyone who knew what to look for. Jack worked for Earth Intelligence, the secret service that helped maintain humanity's careful deception. Captain Miller, he said as he sat down. Good to see you again. You too, Jack. How's life in the shadows? Jack ordered a coffee before answering. Busy. There's a situation developing that you need to know about. Susan's smile faded. How bad? Bad enough that I'm here in person instead of sending an encrypted message. Jack leaned forward. The Caraxians have started making aggressive moves along the border systems. Susan frowned. The Caraxian Empire was not part of the Galactic Alliance. They were a predatory species known for expansion and conquest. The Alliance had managed to keep an uneasy peace with them for decades. What kind of moves? She asked. They've attacked 3 outposts in the last month. The Alliance has sent warships to respond, but Jack paused as a server brought his coffee. When they were alone again, he continued. The Caraxians seem to be 1 step ahead. They're targeting the Alliance warships first, picking them off before they can organize a defense. That's not surprising, Susan said. Alliance warships are beautiful, but subtle they are not. You can spot an Aloxian cruiser from half a system away. Jack nodded. Exactly. The Alliance builds warships to be seen, to act as deterrents. They announce their presence and their purpose. Which works fine when you're dealing with species that think like they do, Susan added. But the Caraxians are hunters. They see those obvious warships as targets. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session tomorrow, Jack said. Earth will be asked to provide support. What kind of support? The kind they think we can provide. Merchant vessels for evacuation, medical supplies, food transport. They don't think we have anything to offer militarily. Susan drank her coffee thinking about what this meant. So Earth will agree to send merchant ships to help with humanitarian efforts. Yes, and some of those merchant ships will be vessels, like the Blue Horizon. Jack gave her a meaningful look. Susan understood immediately. Ships that looked harmless but carried advanced weapon systems. Ships that could slip past Caraxian patrols because no one would see them as threats. Ships, crewed by humans who understood predatory thinking. The Blue Horizon will be ready, she said. We were scheduled to leave in 3 days anyway. We can adjust our cargo manifest to look like we're carrying relief supplies. Jack nodded. You'll get official orders after the council meeting for, now keep a low profile. He stood to leave, then paused. The Alliance species still don't understand why we build our ships the way we do. They think it's because we're technologically behind. Susan smiled. Let them keep thinking that. Humans learned a long time ago that in a dangerous universe, sometimes the best predator is the one that doesn't look like a predator at all. After Jack left, Susan finished her coffee and walked through the station back to her ship. She passed elegant aliens who barely glanced at her. She was just another human after all. Her species was no threat to anyone. As she approached the Blue Horizon, she looked at it with new eyes. Yes, it was ugly. Yes, it looked like it had been built by people who barely understood space travel. The visible engine housing suggested inefficient propulsion. The hull looked like it could barely withstand a meteor strike, let alone weapons fire. But beneath those inefficient engines was a drive system as advanced as anything in the galaxy. Behind those mismatched hull plates was armor that could withstand direct hits from Caraxian weapons. And hidden inside those random-looking cargo containers were missile systems that could strike with deadly accuracy. Earth ships looked like freighters because that's what humans wanted the galaxy to see. But the galaxy was about to find out what these ships really were. Susan stepped back onto her bridge, her mind already planning for the coming conflict. Captain on deck, Greg announced. Prepare the crew for a change of plans, Susan told him. We'll be heading to the border system soon. And Greg? Yes, Captain. Run a complete diagnostic on our special systems. I want everything ready, just in case we need to drop our disguise. Greg nodded, understanding in his eyes. Yes, Captain. It sounds like the galaxy might finally see what we can really do. Let's hope they're ready for the surprise, Susan said softly. The Galactic Council chamber was a huge room with high ceilings and walls made of a clear material that showed the stars outside. In the center was a large, round table where representatives from all Alliance species sat. Tall windows let in light from the nearby sun, making the room bright and warm. Ambassador William Carter sat quietly at the human section of the table. Unlike the other ambassadors in their colorful robes and elaborate outfits, he wore a simple, dark suit. He listened as Admiral Zex of the Tauri Confederacy spoke. The situation is worse than we first thought, the Admiral said. His voice was deep and rough. In the past week, the Caraxians have attacked 5 more outposts. 3 have fallen completely. Our warships are being targeted before they can even engage the enemy. Holographic images appeared above the table, showing elegant Alliance warships being destroyed by Caraxian vessels. The Alliance ships were beautiful but obvious targets. The Caraxians struck from hiding, focusing all their firepower on the clearly marked command sections. How are they finding our ships so quickly? Asked the Aloxian representative. Her crystal headpiece caught the light as she moved. They've adapted to our tactics, said Admiral Zex. For generations our warships have been designed to be seen, to show our power. The Caraxians now use this against us, targeting our most powerful ships first. The council leader, a tall Viridian with green skin, turned to Ambassador Carter. What can Earth contribute to this crisis? All eyes turned to William. Some faces showed hope, others showed doubt. Earth was the newest member of the Alliance, and most species still saw humans as primitive newcomers. William cleared his throat. Earth can provide transport ships to evacuate civilians and move supplies to affected areas. A murmur went around the table. The Tauri admiral didn't hide his disappointment. Transport ships? We need warships, Ambassador. Fighting vessels. William kept his expression neutral. I understand, Admiral, but Earth's military capabilities are limited compared to the Alliance fleet. Our vessels aren't designed for combat. They're simple freight haulers and passenger ships. However, we have many of them, and they can help move people to safety. The Aloxian representative gave a small, polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. We appreciate Earth's offer, Ambassador Carter. Your freight haulers will be useful for evacuation efforts. William didn't miss the slight pause before freight haulers, or the hidden contempt in her voice. The Aloxians, with their beautiful, crystal ships, found human vessels particularly offensive to look at. Earth is happy to help in any way we can, William said simply. The rest of the meeting focused on military strategies. The Alliance would send more warships to protect the border systems. Earth would provide 20 transport vessels to help evacuate civilians from threatened outposts. When the meeting ended, William left quickly. He needed to send a secure message to Earth. As soon as he reached the private communication room reserved for Earth's use, he activated the quantum encryption system. This was one piece of technology that would have surprised the Alliance species if they knew humans possessed it. Protocol Trojan horses approved, he said to the communication officer on Earth. 20 vessels, full activation. Understood, Ambassador, came the reply. Fleet Admiral Rogers has selected the ships and commanders. The Blue Horizon will serve as the command vessel under Commander Alan Boyd. William nodded with satisfaction. The Blue Horizon was one of Earth's most advanced ships despite its deceiving appearance, and Alan Boyd was an excellent strategist. Meanwhile, on Earth's main orbital station, Fleet Admiral Nancy Rogers was briefing the captains who would lead the mission. 20 men and women stood at attention as she explained their orders. This is not a standard evacuation mission, she said. You'll be entering active combat zones. The Caraxians won't hesitate to attack even vessels that appear to be simple transports. She activated a holographic display showing the border systems where the Caraxian attacks were happening. Your primary mission is to evacuate civilians and protect Alliance assets. Your secondary mission is to gather intelligence on Caraxian tactics and capabilities. She paused. And your third mission is to reveal as little as possible about Earth's true military strength. A captain raised her hand. Ma'am, if we're attacked directly, how much of our capabilities are we authorized to reveal? It was the question they all wanted to ask. For years, humans had hidden their true military technology from the galaxy. Their ships looked primitive from the outside, but contained weapon systems as advanced as anything in known space. Admiral Rogers considered the question. Use only what you need to complete the mission and protect lives. If possible, maintain our deception. But if revealing our capabilities is necessary to save lives, then you have that authority. She looked at each captain in turn. Remember, this is not just about the current crisis. What the galaxy learns about us now will shape our place in the Alliance for generations to come. Commander Alan Boyd listened carefully. As the mission leader, he would have to make difficult decisions about when and how to reveal Earth's true capabilities. After the briefing, he sought out Captain Susan Miller. She had been transferred from the Blue Horizon to serve as his second-in-command for this mission. Captain Miller, he said, extending his hand. I've heard good things about you and your crew. Susan shook his hand firmly. Thank you, Commander. We're ready to serve. I understand you've had a recent encounter with Intelligence Officer Davis. You know what we're facing. Susan nodded. The Caraxians are targeting Alliance warships first, using their obvious design against them. Exactly, said Alan. And that gives us an advantage. The Caraxians won't see our ships as threats until it's too late. They walked together toward the docking bay where the Blue Horizon waited. From the outside, it looked like any other human freighter. Ugly, practical, with no hint of its true purpose. I've reviewed the crew assignments, Susan said. We have our best people on this mission. Alan nodded. Good. We'll need them. He paused, looking at the ship. You know, I've always found it ironic. The Alliance species think our ships look this way because we're technologically backward. They have no idea it's a deliberate choice. Humans learned deception through centuries of warfare against ourselves, Susan replied. The Alliance species evolved without that pressure. They never needed to hide what they are. And now that difference might save them, Alan said quietly. The next day, the 20 Earth vessels departed for the border systems. To any observer, they looked like a fleet of mismatched freight haulers, ugly, inefficient, and harmless. No, one would guess that these ungainly ships carried some of the most advanced weapon systems in the galaxy. Commander Alan Boyd stood on the bridge of the blue horizon, watching as the stars streaked by. In 3 days, they would reach Outpost Gamma 9, which intelligence reports said would be the next Coraxian target. Status report, he ordered. Susan checked her console. All systems operating normally, Commander. Our hull configuration is maintaining standard freighter appearance. Weapon systems are powered down but ready for immediate activation. Alan nodded. Good. Let's hope we don't need them. But something in his voice suggested he thought otherwise. The deception had worked for years. Earth ships had traveled the galaxy, looking harmless while hiding their true nature. But Alan suspected that very soon, the galaxy would discover why Earth's warships looked like freighters, and the Coraxians would be the first to find out. Outpost Gamma 9 filled the main view screen of the blue horizon. The space station was already under attack. 3 Coraxian warships fired at it from different angles. Their red energy beams cut into the station's outer rings. Escape pods launched from the damaged sections, carrying civilians away from the battle. Commander Alan Boyd stood calmly on the bridge, watching the scene. 5 other Earth vessels had arrived with the blue horizon. They hung back, looking like a ragtag group of freighters waiting to pick up refugees. Status report, Alan said. Susan checked her console. The station's shields are at 30%. About 2,000 civilians are still on board. The Coraxians have already sent boarding parties to the upper levels. Any Alliance warships responding? 1 Aloxian cruiser was already here, Susan said. It was destroyed 20 minutes ago. 2 Tari battleships are on the way, but they won't arrive for at least an hour. Alan nodded. He had expected this. The Alliance military was spread thin, trying to respond to multiple attacks along the border. A new ship appeared on their long-range scanners. It was much larger than the 3 attacking the station, a Coraxian command vessel. Sir, said the communications officer, we're being scanned by the Coraxian flagship. On the command ship, Coraxian war leader Drax looked at the scan results with 4 of his yellow eyes. His other 2 eyes remained fixed on the battle. Human vessels, he said, his voice a low growl. 6 of them, freighters by the look of them. His second-in-command checked the scans. Yes, war leader. Commercial vessels likely here to evacuate survivors. No weapons detected. Drax made a sound like stones grinding together. A Coraxian laugh. Pathetic. The Alliance sends merchants to fight their battles now. He waved a clawed hand. Send the dagger to deal with them. Tell Captain Krell to give them 1 warning shot. If they flee, let them go. If not, destroy them. We don't need witnesses. The smallest Coraxian ship, a light cruiser called the Dagger, broke away from the station attack and moved toward the human vessels. On the blue horizon, Alan watched the approaching cruiser. They're sending their smallest ship to deal with us, he said. They don't consider us a threat. Should we run, sir? Asked the helmsman, playing his part. We could pretend to flee. Alan shook his head. No. Too many civilians still on that station. We need to buy them time to evacuate. He turned to the communications officer. Open a channel to the Coraxian ship. The officer's fingers danced across his console. Channel open, sir. Alan spoke clearly. This is Commander Alan Boyd of the Earth merchant vessel Blue Horizon. We are on a humanitarian mission to evacuate civilians from Outpost Gamma 9. We request safe passage. The response came quickly. A Coraxian face appeared on the screen, 6 yellow eyes blinking in different patterns. This is Captain Krell of the Imperial vessel Dagger. This system is now under Caraxian control. You have 10 seconds to change course and leave, or we will fire. Alan looked at Susan. She nodded slightly. We are unarmed civilian vessels on a rescue mission, Alan replied. Under galactic law, we have the right to... The dagger fired a beam of energy that passed just above the blue horizon, missing it by meters. The warning shot. That was your only warning, Captain Krell said. The next will not miss. Alan cut the communication. He took a deep breath. This was the moment Earth had prepared for. The moment that would change how the galaxy saw humanity. All ships, he said to the fleet communication channel. Masks off, protect the civilians. Across all 6 Earth vessels, crews jumped into action. On the blue horizon, Susan gave rapid commands. Activate combat systems. Reconfigure hull. Bring weapons online. The ship transformed. What had appeared to be cargo bays slid open to reveal rows of railguns and missile launchers. The communications array, which had seemed oversized and clunky, reconfigured into an advanced energy weapon platform. Most impressive of all, the ship's hull, which had looked like a patchwork of different metals, suddenly flowed together into a seamless armor. On the dagger, Captain Krell stared in disbelief as his target changed before his eyes. What is this? He demanded. Scan them again. Sir, his scanner officer said, voice shaking. They have weapons. Many weapons. Their power signature just jumped to 5 times its previous level. Before Krell could give an order, the blue horizon fired. A stream of magnetically accelerated rounds from its railguns tore through the dagger's shields as if they weren't there. A second later, 2 missiles struck the cruiser's engine section. The dagger exploded in a ball of fire. On the Caraxian command ship, War Leader Drax roared in anger. What happened to the dagger? He demanded. Destroyed, War Leader, said his second-in-command. The human ships? They're not freighters. They're warships. Impossible. Drax slammed his fist on his command chair. Human vessels are primitive. They have no significant weapons. The scans don't lie, War Leader. They concealed their weapons somehow. And their technology. It's like nothing we've seen before. Drax growled. Bring all ships about. Target the human vessels. The 2 remaining Caraxian ships broke off their attack on the station and turned toward the Earth fleet. But the human ships were already moving. They split into pairs, each pair taking a different approach vector. The blue horizon and another vessel called the Prairie Wind approached from above, while the other 4 spread out to flank the Caraxian ships. They don't fight like Alliance vessels, Drax observed. Alliance warships typically formed a line and engaged head-on, a tactic based on honor as much as strategy. The human ships kept moving, never staying in one place long enough to make an easy target. They fired from multiple angles, coordinating their attacks in a way that forced the Caraxian ships to divide their defenses. Their attack pattern makes no sense, Drax's tactical officer complained. They retreat, then attack, then retreat again. There's no honor in it. But Alan Boyd wasn't concerned with honor. He was concerned with winning. Target their weapon systems, he ordered. Don't give them time to coordinate. The Earth ships continued their unpredictable dance, wearing down the Caraxian vessels. When one of the Caraxian ships exploded after a precision strike from the Prairie Wind, Drax made a decision. Enough, he said. Recall our boarding parties, we're leaving. His second-in-command looked shocked. Leaving? But War Leader, we've never retreated from humans before. Those are not the humans we knew, Drax said grimly. Send the signal, now. As the remaining Caraxian ship turned to flee, the blue horizon and its companions let it go. Their mission was to protect the station, not pursue the enemy. They're retreating, Susan reported. The station is secure, Alan nodded. Begin docking procedures. Let's get those civilians to safety. As the Earth ships approached the station, an Alliance vessel appeared. It was the Luminary, an Aloxian cruiser that had arrived hours ahead of schedule. Its captain, Alara, watched in amazement as the human freighters docked with the station. Those can't be Earth ships, she said. Earth doesn't have that kind of technology. Her first officer checked the identification signals. They are Earth vessels, Captain. but they're unlike any we've seen before. Alara's crystal crown caught the light as she tilted her head. It seems our human allies have been keeping secrets. After the civilians were safely aboard, Alan received a message from the luminary. Captain Alara requested his presence for a debriefing. "You should go, sir," Susan said. "They're going to have questions." Alan smiled slightly. "Yes, I imagine they will." He straightened his uniform. "I think it's time the Alliance learned what humanity really brings to the table." Commander Alan Boyd walked through the smooth crystal corridors of the Aloxian cruiser luminary. The ship was beautiful inside and out. The walls glowed with soft light. The floor was perfectly polished. Every detail showed careful design and artistic vision. It was the opposite of Earth's practical vessels. A young Aloxian officer led Alan to the ship's meeting room. Captain Alara waited inside with 3 other Alliance officers. One was Tauri, with rough gray skin and a stern face. Another was Viridian, tall and green. The third was Melosian, short and blue with 4 arms. "Commander Boyd," Captain Alara said. Her voice was musical, like all Aloxians. "Thank you for coming." She gestured to a chair. Alan sat down. He had expected questions, but not a full panel of Alliance officers. "We have many questions about what we just witnessed," Alara continued. Her crystal crown caught the light as she moved. "Your ships, they are not what they appear to be." "No," Alan agreed. "They're not." The Tari officer leaned forward. "Your vessels transformed from freight haulers into warships in seconds. They displayed weapons technology we've never seen on Earth ships before. How is this possible?" Alan chose his words carefully. "Earth's ships are designed to conceal their true capabilities." "But why?" asked the Viridian. "The Alliance shares technology openly. We work together. Why would Earth hide its military power?" "It's how humans think," Alan explained. "For thousands of years, human warfare involved deception and concealment. Our history taught us that showing your strength can make you a target. The Melosian used all 4 hands to operate a datapad. The battle records are fascinating. Your ships did not fight in formation. They used irregular movements, feints, and coordinated attacks from multiple angles. Standard human tactics, Alan said. We don't believe in head-on assaults if we can avoid them." Captain Alara's expression was hard to read. "The Alliance has always valued openness in military matters. Our warships are designed to be recognized, to show our power as a deterrent. And that works well with species that think the same way," Alan pointed out. "But the Caraxians are predators. To them, your obvious warships just make obvious targets." The officers exchanged looks. This was clearly a new idea to them. "How long has Earth been disguising warships as commercial vessels?" The Tari officer asked. "Since we first joined the Alliance," Alan admitted. "Every Earthship that looks like a freighter has at least some hidden capabilities." The Viridian looked shocked. "All of them? But there are hundreds of Earth vessels traveling through Alliance space." Alan didn't confirm or deny this. The truth was that only about half of Earth's ships were military vessels in disguise. The rest were genuine commercial ships. But it was better if the Alliance didn't know which was which. "Let me be clear," Alan said. "Earth has never used these capabilities against Alliance species. We developed them for defense only. Yet you kept them secret from your allies," Captain Alara said. Her tone wasn't accusatory, just thoughtful. Alan nodded. "Yes. Earth's government believed it was prudent." The Melosian finished reviewing the battle data. These tactics were extremely effective against the Caraxians. They had no defense against ships that could suddenly reveal unexpected weapons. "The element of surprise is powerful," Alan agreed. "The Caraxians expected freighters. They found warships instead." Captain Alara stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, the blue horizon was docked at the station, looking like an ordinary freight hauler again. Its weapons were hidden. Its hull had returned to the patchwork appearance that made it seem primitive and harmless. "The Alliance Council will need to know about this," she said finally. "Earth's deception changes things." I understand, Alan said. My superiors expected this. On the Caraxian command ship, war leader Drax was facing a difficult conversation with his own superiors. A hologram of Grand Admiral Thex filled the command center. The Admiral's expression was not pleased. You retreated from humans, the Admiral said. His voice was cold with disbelief. Drax stood at attention. The humans had concealed weapons, Grand Admiral. Technology we haven't seen before. Their ships could change configuration. Impossible, said the Admiral. Human vessels are primitive. All our intelligence confirms this. The intelligence is wrong, Drax insisted. I saw it myself. Their ships look like freight haulers, but they carry advanced weapons, and they fight differently than other Alliance species. The Admiral was silent for a moment. Different how? They don't engage directly. They use unpredictable movements. They coordinate attacks to create weaknesses. They target specific systems rather than trying to destroy the whole ship. This caught the Admiral's interest. Send me all scan data and battle recordings. I want our analysts to study them immediately. 2 days later, a special session of the Galactic Council was called. Representatives from all Alliance species gathered to hear about the Battle of Outpost Gamma 9, as it was now being called. Ambassador William Carter took his seat at the human section. He had been briefed about what happened and was prepared for the questions. The council leader, the tall Viridian, called the meeting to order. We are here to discuss the recent events at Outpost Gamma 9. Captain Alara of the Aloxian Defense Force will present her report. Captain Alara stood. A holographic display activated, showing images of the human ships transforming from freighters to warships. 5 days ago, 6 Earth vessels saved Outpost Gamma 9 from a Caraxian attack, she began. They did this using technology and tactics previously unknown to the Alliance. Murmurs spread around the table as the other representatives saw the images. For years, Ilara continued, we have seen human ships as primitive and basic. We now know this was deliberate. Earth has been disguising its warships as commercial vessels. All eyes turned to Ambassador Carter. The Tari Admiral spoke first. Ambassador, is this true? Has Earth been concealing military technology from its allies? William stood calmly. Earth has developed certain defensive technologies that we chose not to share widely. Yes. But why? Asked the Aloxian representative, her voice sharp with what sounded like betrayal. For the same reason we build our ships to look harmless, William explained. Humans learned through our own history that obvious power attracts obvious challenges. We believed a low profile would serve us better in the galaxy. You didn't trust the Alliance, the Viridian Council leader said. William chose his next words carefully. We were cautious. Earth is still new to the galactic community. We wanted to understand our place in it before revealing all our capabilities. The council erupted in debate. Some representatives were angry about the deception. Others were more interested in the tactical advantages Earth's approach had shown against the Caraxians. Finally, the council leader called for quiet. The fact remains that Earth's vessels saved an Alliance outpost and thousands of lives. And they've revealed a weakness in our military strategy. Captain Alara spoke again. The Caraxians target our warships first because they're easy to identify. Human vessels with their hidden capabilities had a significant advantage. William nodded. Earth is willing to share this technology now. We believe it could help the entire Alliance against the Caraxian threat. The debate continued for hours. By the end, a decision was reached. Earth would work with Alliance engineers to adapt their concealment technology for other species vessels. In return, Earth would stop hiding its military capabilities from its allies. As William left the council chamber, he received a message from Fleet Admiral Rogers on Earth. The Blue Horizon and Commander Boyd have been ordered to return to Earth for debriefing, the message said. But 12 more disguised warships are already moving to Alliance border systems. The Caraxians won't know what hit them. William smiled. Slightly. The galaxy now knew that Earth's warships looked like freighters for a very good reason. And the Caraxians had learned this lesson the hard way. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Outpost Gamma 9. Captain Susan Miller stood on the observation deck of Earth's main shipyard, which orbited around Jupiter. Through the large window, she watched teams of workers moving around spacecraft, in various stages of construction. Some were Earth vessels with their practical modular designs. Others were Alliance ships, elegant and beautiful, but now being fitted with human technology. "Quite a change from 6 months ago," said a voice behind her. Susan turned to see Fleet Admiral Nancy Rogers approach. The Admiral's uniform was crisp and neat as always, but she looked tired. The past 6 months had been busy for Earth's military leadership. "Yes, ma'am," Susan agreed. "I never thought I'd see Aloxian crystal ships in an Earth shipyard." Below them, a group of alien visitors moved through the facility. They wore the colorful robes of Alliance military advisors. Engineers from 6 different species were touring Earth's shipyards, learning how humans designed vessels that could hide their true nature. "How are our guests adjusting to human ideas?" Admiral Rogers asked. Susan watched the aliens examining a ship under construction. It had the sleek lines of an Aloxian cruiser, but with sections that could reconfigure themselves to hide weapon systems. "Slowly," Susan said. "Some concepts are hard for them to accept. The Aloxians especially struggle with the idea of deliberate deception, even in warfare. Their culture values beauty and truth above all." Admiral Rogers nodded. "Not surprising. They evolved without major predators on their homeworld. They never needed to hide." The 2 women watched as an Aloxian engineer pointed to a section of the ship where a weapons bay was concealed behind what looked like decorative panels. The Aloxian seemed both fascinated and uncomfortable. "Ambassador Carter did an amazing job convincing the Council to adopt our approach," Susan said. "I honestly thought they would just label us as deceitful and ignore the tactical advantages." "The continued Coraxian attacks made the difference," Rogers replied. "After they lost 3 more outposts using their traditional warships, even the most traditional species had to admit our method works better." A month after Gamma 9, the Alliance had formed a joint human-alien military task force. Earth contributed more of its disguised warships, while Alliance engineers began studying the technology. At first, many alien species were reluctant to adopt what they saw as dishonest tactics. But the Coraxians continued to target obvious warships, and the death toll grew. "The Tauri adapted quickest," Susan observed, watching a Tauri commander examine a modular weapon system. "They've already renamed half their fleet as multi-purpose vessels rather than battleships." Rogers smiled slightly. "The Tauri are practical. They care more about winning than about how their ships look." The Viridians were the hardest to convince. "How are the new joint exercises going?" Susan asked. "Better than expected. The first training missions were rough. Most Alliance species still wanted to form battle lines and attack directly, but they're learning our approach now." Below, engineers were demonstrating how Earth vessels were built with systems that could be easily reconfigured. The outer hull could change appearance. Weapons could be hidden inside what looked like cargo sections. Even the heat and energy signatures could be masked to make a powerful warship appear to be a simple transport. One of the Aloxian visitors seemed particularly interested in a display showing how Earth ships used special materials to alter their appearance. Susan recognized her as Captain Alara, who had been promoted after her role in reporting the events at Gamma 9. "Captain Alara is adapting better than most," Rogers noted. "She requested assignment to the joint engineering team. She saw our ships in action firsthand," Susan said. "That makes a difference." A week later, the first joint military exercise demonstrated the new approach. A mixed fleet of human and Alliance vessels practiced against simulated Coraxian attackers. The Alliance ships still maintained much of their beautiful design, but now incorporated elements of human deception. Some of the changes were subtle. An Aloxian cruiser still had its crystal hull, but now certain sections could dim or brighten to mask its true size. A Tauri battleship kept its impressive shape, but the obvious weapon mounts were now hidden behind retractable panels. Most interesting were the new diplomatic and scientific vessels. These ships looked completely non-military, like Earth's disguised freighters, but contained impressive weapon systems. From the bridge of the Blue Horizon, Susan watched the exercise with Commander Alan Boyd, who had been promoted but chosen to remain with his ship. "The Aloxians still make their ships too pretty," Alan commented. But at least now the weapons aren't the first thing you notice. Susan smiled. Old habits die hard, but they're learning. The exercise was a success. The simulated Caraxian attackers, programmed to target obvious military vessels first, were confused by the new designs. They wasted time and resources attacking decoys while the real threat, ships that didn't look threatening, moved into position. 2 weeks later, the Caraxians launched what they expected to be a surprise attack on an Alliance colony. They found themselves facing a fleet that no longer advertised its capabilities. The battle was short. The Caraxian ships were destroyed or captured, and their crews were stunned by the Alliance's new tactics. Within a month, the Caraxian Empire requested peace talks. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador William Carter sat next to representatives from 20 other Alliance species. Across the table, Caraxian diplomats fidgeted uncomfortably. They weren't used to asking for peace. The lead Caraxian spoke. The Empire recognizes the changed military situation and proposes a mutual border agreement. The Council leader nodded. The Alliance is willing to discuss terms. I believe our human colleagues have a saying that might guide these talks. William smiled slightly as all eyes turned to him. Yes, on Earth we say judge by capability, not appearance. The Caraxian diplomat's 6 eyes blinked in different patterns, a sign of discomfort. A wise saying. After the meeting, William found himself walking with the Aloxian representative. Her crystal crown caught the light as she turned to him. That Earth saying is spreading through the Alliance, she said. My own people have begun using it, not just for ships, but for many things. William nodded. It's a good principle. The galaxy is full of surprises. Things aren't always what they seem. Before I met humans, I would have called your deception dishonorable, she admitted. Now I see it differently. Sometimes survival requires flexibility. That's another human trait, William said. We adapt, we learn, and we're teaching the Alliance to do the same. Back at the shipyards orbiting Jupiter, work continued on the new generation of vessels. The ugly, patched-together look of Earth ships was evolving into something different. Not as obvious as Alliance warships had been, but not as deliberately deceptive as before. A new style was emerging that balanced practicality with modest aesthetics. Susan Miller, now Admiral Susan Miller, watched as her new command ship took shape. It still had the modular construction and hidden weapons that had served Earth so well, but it no longer needed to look like a freighter. The galaxy now knew that appearance could be deceiving, and the most dangerous predator was often the one you didn't recognize as a threat. A good-looking ship, said Admiral Rogers, joining her at the viewport. Not too pretty, though. Susan smiled. No, just pretty enough. Across Alliance space, a question was becoming common in shipyards and design facilities. What if nobody knew this was a warship until it was too late? It was a very human question, born from a history of conflict and survival. And now it was changing how an entire galaxy thought about warfare. The days of obvious warships were over. The Caraxians had learned this lesson the hard way, and it had all started because Earth's warships looked like freighters.